What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Pizzo Pod, and we are 2 months away from the release of Black Ops 7, 1 month away from the release of the beta for Black Ops 7, and I just wanted to talk about the top 10 things I wanted in Black Ops 7, specifically in zombies, as I am a zombies player. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about those top 10 things, and let's get right into it. So the first thing I want is a more stylized HUD. Now, the HUD is really clean and it's really well made. And when you look at it, it doesn't take up any excess space. But the problem is it doesn't have that same feeling and that same stylization that those Black Ops 3, Black Ops 2, I wouldn't say Black Ops 4, but I'd say Black Ops 3, Black Ops 2. Those HUDs have a lot more like stylization, and they're very, they're themed to the map. And so I really think that would go a long way. I know it's kind of like a smaller thing, but I do think it does add a lot in like immersing you into the gameplay, because it's the thing you're seeing the whole game. It's kind of like the overlay, like that's what you're seeing the whole time you're playing. So I think it's important to have that stylized to the map, even if it's not stylized to the map, but more stylized to, like, since we're going to be in the dark ether, maybe stylize it to the ether, so you can kind of get that, like, that extra immersion, that extra sauce that kind of pulls you into the map more so than like usually with the game. It's got that kind of Warzone aesthetic, and they did add a lot to the HUD and making it more zombie stylized with like the red background for the characters and being able to customize it. But I just think it needs to be more stylized. That's my only problem. They did really well with the customization, but it needs to be a little bit more stylized. The second thing I want is a boss rush mode, or an option to be able to fight the bosses only. I know a lot of people might have a problem with this, and that's why I kind of mentioned a boss rush mode, where it'd be really cool if you're able to like fight the bosses back to back or something, or a mode where you are picking your loadout and then you fight a boss or something like that. It would be really cool to kind of give you that extra oomph with the bosses, because the bosses are really well made, and I think it gives it that extra emphasis on the bosses. Now, obviously, I think it should be released like later in the lifespan of the game, like maybe like a couple weeks after the map releases, so everybody has to play the boss through doing the Easter egg. But I think if there was some kind of emphasis on the boss, or like a boss rush mode, it could be really cool, because like I said, the bosses are really well made, and I think they've taken so many big steps forward in terms of the bosses since like something like Drak in BO3, which the boss is very simple and not really like super in depth, but there's so much more strategy and so much more. The bosses have all these type of things that they do that you have to adapt to, and you have to learn their moveset and things like that. So I think it'd be really cool to add like like I said, a boss rush mode, or a way you can fight the bosses only, because those bosses have been really well made and really finely tuned to the experiences. The third thing I want is a permanent mode, or permanent modes. I think they've had some really great LTMs, which stands for limited time modes. In Black Ops 6, like Cranked was really fun. The starting room challenge was awesome. It kind of gives you that sense of survival that those old games gave you. But I think if we go back and keep those permanent throughout the entire lifespan, it adds a lot of replayability and allows for people to be able to get kind of different looks at the game. I feel like when you take it away from people, it's kind of like, it feels kind of more like a gimmick. It doesn't feel like something that is like permanently in the game. Now, I don't know if BO6 eventually will have those modes be permanent to the game when you launch it, but I think they need to be permanent throughout the entire lifespan. And like this kind of goes into the more like improvements, like grief needs to be improved. You need to be able to play solo and against your friends. Cranked is pretty good how it is. I just think it needs to be permanent, like I said. And then the starting room challenge is awesome. It definitely needs to be kept permanently. So those modes need to stay permanent. I just think it adds a lot to your replayability, like I mentioned, and those modes are fun. So I don't know why you'd want to get rid of them. The fourth thing I want is kind of weird and kind of an out there concept, but I think we need an in-game jukebox. Now, the game has kind of like zombies as a mode, I should say more broadly. The music has been one of the most iconic parts about it, and something that I'm definitely biased towards. I love all the COD music, the COD Zombies music in its entire library. So I think we definitely need to have some way to be able to have the music playable. Whether if you want to just go simple and just have it be like a menu outside of the game, you can do that, and like you can play it, you know, in your pause menu or whatever, like that. But I do think it would be way cooler if there's like an in-game way to play the music during your match, so like everybody hears it. And I know a lot of my friends are going to say that's, you know, that's me trying to force the music on them, but I do think it'd be really cool, and like being able to like have that music playing in game would just be awesome. I think you could make like a really cool design jukebox, put it in the map. You could choose what songs you want to play. I don't know how they do it. Essentially, that would kind of be more the nitty gritty that they need to figure out. But I think it'd be so cool. It would go a long way in emphasizing the work of like Kevin Sherwood, Brian Toohey, Jack Wall, kind of giving them that emphasis in the game that I feel like they kind of deserve, because the music is great, and I think it needs to be more pushed towards the audience. The fifth thing I want is more field upgrades, more creative field upgrades. I don't want them to repackage the same field upgrades we've had since Cold War. I really want them to have new creative field upgrades. And the reason I kind of brought this up, and the reason why I kind of got keyed into this, is because the Mr. Peaks field upgrade is so cool. It's so unique, and it has a lot of like, it's got that kind of creative flair that zombies always had. Like when you shoot it down and it comes out, and it's like hitting all these zombies at the same time, and he does all the field upgrades. It kind of gives you that chaos that zombies has. So I think that really like sparked my imagination in terms of like bringing in new field upgrades that are more unique, and like, I don't know, you could do all sorts of things with it. Make it more interesting. Just give us more of like choices of more creative and more fun field upgrades. I think it would be really cool. The sixth thing I want is primitive. The sixth thing I want is primitive. Why do I keep holy? The sixth thing I want is Primus or Ultimus costumes. Now, in the notes I put down when I was writing the script kind of for this, is I put like a bundle, which the only reason I put that is because I imagine if those skins are going to come in the game, they are going to have to be bought, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. I understand COD is a business, but I think it'd be really cool to have some sort of reward or bundle where you have those OG Primus and Ultimus skins, because obviously those characters are coming back. It'd be really cool to have those old costumes and be able to play as them in those costumes. So yeah, it's kind of a simple thing, but I think it'd be really cool. And yeah, it's just more of like a personal thing I kind of want to be able to have in the game. The seventh thing I want in Black Ops 7 Zombies is CGI cutscenes only. Now, as long as there's cutscenes in general, I will be satisfied, but I want to push for more CGI cutscenes, because I feel like those intros from Black Ops 6 that we got for Citadel, Liberty Falls, and Terminus are so cool. And I think they're really well made. They have great character moments. They're really finely tuned. And I understand having those, like, they want to have the in-game cutscenes to be able to kind of just seamlessly move from gameplay to cutscene. But those CGI cutscenes just look way better, I think. Especially towards the end of the game, you could tell that the in-game cutscenes weren't as high quality. But, you know, like I said, I would be happy if there's cutscenes, like especially opening cutscenes. I want to emphasize opening cutscenes need to be part of every map. I think a lot of people don't really care if there's an opening cutscene. I personally do. I think it adds so much more to the map. It kind of gives you that first, you know, immersion. So I hope that's something that happens. If not CGI, just at least something at the beginning, those opening moments that you hopefully we have something like that. All right, the eighth thing I want is no more returning enemies, please. This is the biggest sticking point for me in Black Ops 6. One of them is we have returning enemies. Now, I understand that in Black Ops 7 there's going to have to be, because it's the ether, and, you know, you're going to have to bring certain things back. Fine. But, like, at least give us a bunch of new enemy types, because we're going into the ether. There should be all sorts of creatures, all sorts of zombies. We gotta stop reusing the Mangler. We cannot see the Mangler one more time. Now, they did get rid of it later with Shattered Veil and Reckoning. I know it's part of the Reckoning Easter egg, it's part of the Shattered Veil Easter egg, but it's done in a more creative way. But the Mangler is really weirdly placed, and it doesn't need to be in any more any more maps. We need to have specific zombies bosses for this game. Now, like I said, some reused enemies, I get, it makes sense. Like certain, like I'm trying to think of something like, I don't know. I get some of them are going to return, but please just give us a bunch of new enemies. That's all I ask. The ninth thing I want is more buildables. One thing I mentioned about the Reckoning, and somebody pointed this out in the comments too of my last video. I wish that the parachute was a buildable. It would have been so cool if it was a buildable. It would have added kind of that extra step to being able to traverse the map. And obviously you'd have to rework the map in a couple ways, but it would add a lot. So I hope that the new game has a lot more buildables. Like the Wonder Vehicle should be a buildable. If it's not a buildable, it's so boring. It's just there. It needs to be, you need to be able to find the parts to be able to assemble it. And then that adds to the progression curve. And then you're able to take advantage of it. I really hope that we just have more buildables. It adds a lot. We all know this. We all know how much buildables are like iconic to zombies. And I think if we keep, you know, if it's just wonder weapons, that's not as cool as like these extra things that you're able to take advantage of in the map. So we just need more of those for sure. And the 10th and last thing I wanted to bring up is I think leveling and prestige should be mode exclusive. Now, it's cool to be able to have, you know, that cross progression between all modes, but I personally think it'll do a lot if we have specific leveling. Like if I'm prestige in zombies, I shouldn't be able to be prestige in multiplayer. Somebody, Chopper actually brought this up in one of his other videos that I was watching, where he was like, it feels like you're cheapened your progression, because when you go to multiplayer and you're like prestige level 300 or something, prestige master, it's like you didn't earn that, you just have it because you played zombies. That shouldn't be a thing. I personally think I agree with it. So, you know, it's not that big of a thing also, but I do think it would add a lot to, you know, keeping those modes exclusive. I know they want people to be able to pick up and play every mode, but I don't know. It's just, you're not going to get people who play zombies, you know, and sometimes they're going to play multiplayer, sometimes they play campaign. But if you're like that high a level in zombies, you're playing zombies. If you're playing multiplayer, you're more than likely going to stay in multiplayer. You're not really going to get that crossover that you think, where it's like people are going to vastly play another mode more than the other just because there's cross progression. That's just what I think. One bonus thing I want is a LeBron James skin. So yeah, those are the 10 things I want in Black Ops 7. I know some of them are smaller. Those I listed out were not in any particular order. I just think there's some small, some big things. These are just the first things that kind of came to my mind that I think I would really like in Black Ops 7. So I hope at least a couple of these things make it in. I know it's not like a guarantee. These are just my thoughts. These are just what I kind of want in the game. I think it would add a lot to the game. I think all these would be beneficial for the game for the most part. So I hope maybe, you know, some of these things make it through the cracks. Some things make it into the game. That'd be awesome. But yeah, if you have any extra things that I didn't mention, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below. If you disagree with any of my picks, then let me know. I don't know how you could, but you know, some people disagree. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.